Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tony Russo, and I will be your host for today's Funeral Technology Summit featuring Cole Waybright. He is the Vice President of Sales Optimization for Homesteaders Life Company. The presentation will be about an hour long, give or take. There's plenty of time though, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. The way that you can ask questions is if you look down on your bar there's a questions bar. Just type the question in there and I'll ask the questions as we go along. I'll find an appropriate place to stop and ask questions. And the more questions you have, the better. It's better for the conversation, especially since you're taking the time to be here. You may as well make sure that you get everything out of it. However, if you know someone who will get something out of it, and that someone is not here, not a huge problem. You can send them the link to this and they can come and they can sign up for the replay, which will be available about 24 hours from now. So anyone who signs up, or if you see this and you want to come back to it and watch it later, you'll get an email tomorrow morning that says, here is the link to the event. And you can just click on that and you can rewatch all of the presentation that we're about to give. And so we're going to get started now. I'm going to bring on Cole in a moment. And all right, here you are, Cole, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Tony. It's great to be here.
And someone had asked if we can put the link in the chat. The link isn't available until after this is processed. But once this is processed, you'll get the email. You'll get the email tomorrow morning. If you want to send me an email, I'm the person who's asked this question, I'll just give them my email address so that I can take this offline. But please go ahead with your presentation and I will be right here. I'll be the voice of God if there are any questions. Otherwise, I will see you on the other side of this. Good luck.
Thanks, Tony, and thanks everyone for taking some time out to be here today. It's an honor to be part of this and be able to share hopefully some helpful information as you're navigating your world and the things that come every day. As Tony mentioned, my name is Cole Waybright. I have the privilege of serving at Homesteaders Life Company as the Vice President of Sales Optimization. And again, one of the things that we really try to think a lot about is how do we optimize every part of our business and create just a great opportunity for our team members, for our customers, and for others. And I think some helpful information that anyone can really put into play. So as we think about, in general, breaking silos, maximizing efficiency with integrated technology, I go back to kind of the start of things. And where that begins is, in the funeral profession, every moment matters. Every decision matters. And for both the family that you serve and the team that's really making that happen. Studies have shown that 25% integrated systems can boost your productivity by 20 to 25% and can reduce even costly errors by up to 75%. When you think about those type of numbers, to be able to boost that productivity because you're integrating technology that's working together and reduce those errors, it's a really powerful tool to put into play. Now, today, I think many of us may be experiencing something similar to this person here on the screen. Technology changes fast. It's multiple disconnected systems can create just major inefficiencies. When you think about all the things that we're using, case management, accounting, CRM, marketing tools, merchandise ordering systems, websites, and more, there is a lot going on, and that technology seems to change rapidly along with everything else. So having and finding systems that can work together can create a great scenario or a nightmare scenario. We're going to try to make sure that you have the tools and some of the checklists to really make sure that that is a good thing for you. when you think about the cost of siloed systems, and we talk about siloed systems, it's systems that are kind of walled off that don't necessarily work well with others. The first one is really lost time. Think about all of the different components that need to be manually copied from one piece of information or one technology to another. And that takes just a lot of time from that team member who may be doing that. That can really delay arrangements. It increases human error as you're making those manual adjustments from one system to another, and it risks possibly even compliance mistakes. So there's a lot of risk that goes along with that one. The second piece I would say is customer service. Without integrated technologies, families may have to repeat details that they've already given once or already provided. It's an interesting stat that businesses with disconnected customer data see 15 to 20% drop in customer satisfaction. So if someone fills out a form on your website asking for more information, and then that's not transferred to any other system, now when they walk through the doors, they're having to, again, ask those same questions. They've already given that information. They expect in today's world that those items are going to be on hand for you. The last one is, maybe the most important from a business perspective is the financial leakage. Redundant licensing costs for multiple tools that maybe overlap in function, missed follow-ups, missed information. Again, thinking about even that time example that we gave earlier, that lost time comes at a cost. And having integrated systems can really make a lot of efficiencies across all three of these. So for your team members, for the customers, and then ultimately for the business. So how does integration fix the problems? Well, the first one is really streamlined operations. Integration between systems can really create an automatic flow that creates just a lot of great streamlined information. It allows you to put in processes and checks and balances. The second one I would say is improved accuracy. So linking things, as I mentioned before, a website form into your case management system, or from a pre-need contract into whatever system that you record those in, will really make sure that all of that information is accurate from one system to another. It's always been a pain point when you go to look up maybe somebody that's been a customer before, looked for a file, and on the death certificate it's William Smith. On the file it's Bill Smith. In the computer it's William B. Smith. So none of them really come across or allow you to search effectively or efficiently. And sometimes that can lead to missed accuracy. The third piece I would say is better decision making. So when you're able to have these integrated systems, you can truly see some more of the data behind how things are being used, where there's opportunity for improvement, where people are maybe going to most often, or how things are being used effectively or ineffectively, so that you can make better management decisions, can make faster choices about the offerings you choose or you provide, or the systems that you're using, the processes that you have in place. And then of course the last one would be really that revenue and ROI. By again having that integration with all of your different systems, you may be able to eliminate costs of certain systems because now you have a more seamless piece. Some of the things that you may have been doing, or again, going back to multiple entry or errors that may occur, those can lead up. So automation across integrated systems we've seen can increase revenue by 15 to 30% just by that efficiency, by those pieces talking to one another, by those systems being able to do what they're truly intended for. So as we think about all of these different fixes, how do you really get started? How do you start creating maybe the steps or taking the steps to create an integrated ecosystem. The first thing I would say is assess your current tech stack. List out all the different systems that you may be using. List out all of the different processes that are being done in those systems. It's amazing how many times I've found, or throughout time, people have found that when you truly step back and list those things out, you'll realize you're either not using a system to its full capacity, or maybe you are only utilizing a piece or two that could also be shifted somewhere else. So starting just by assessing what you're using and how you're using it will allow you to maybe take these next steps. The next step for me would be prioritizing the integration opportunities. Start where there's the most time savings, or potentially the revenue potential might be the highest. So if there is a opportunity to, again, think about how you save time in your normal process, meeting with families, whether it's marketing, whether it's pre-need, it doesn't really matter the process that's there. If there's a time savings, that's a huge opportunity. If there's a revenue potential, that now by having those systems integrated to one another allows you again to make those better decisions, allows you to understand what's happening. That's when you truly can start prioritizing what's important in your tech stack and how you can start relying on those integrations to make it even that much better. The third step in my mind is to choose vendors who play well together. Now this is a lot of the challenge. There are a lot of, again, technology companies out there today, and a lot of times when you ask, does this integrate with such and such, or does this, are you able to share information? A lot of times you'll hear yes. That doesn't always necessarily mean that that's going to be the true result. So look for things like API capabilities. Does it have a ability to connect with another system? And if so, how does that connection actually work? Really, dive deep into the way those things are. Many times in our space, it's been a great thing to see is that a lot of companies that are out there that are in either the case management world or websites or maybe memorialization, whatever that may be, have started working together to create those integrations on the back end already for you. So just as you're experiencing or as you're evaluating new tools or the current tools you have, think about all the systems that may be involved and how those systems can connect, because that can be a huge challenge if it's not something that's done correct. The last one I would say is really to think about change management and how to plan for that change management. Training the staff on new technology, new workflows, making sure you have their buy-in along the journey from that assessment of your tech stack all the way to choosing the vendors. Having that input from the people who are doing the jobs and doing the work is going to be vital for the success of implementing an integrated tech stack. Making sure that you can also have the appropriate time so that they feel comfortable using the new system and the new integrations, those new processes or workflows, prior to a go live or shutting off other systems. That's one maybe thing that I've seen over the course of my career of people who have tried to implement things very quickly, and then all of a sudden the maybe person that does that day to day, it doesn't work as well for them, or they're not really trained up on it, and all of a sudden they stop using it. they stop using that functionality and maybe even going backwards from where they were or where you were to begin. They go back to using pen and paper. They go back to trying to create normal files because they're unsure or unable to work in that new system. So making sure you have plenty of time to not only train the staff, but ensure that they feel comfortable in that day-to-day operation will be, critical for success. I always like to think about, a quote or leave with a quote. And I thought this really applied to this entire process, or as you're really working through those things. Before anything else, preparation is the key to success. So as we just outlined, really taking those steps to heart, being able to assess your stack, look for those opportunities, and then gain that acceptance and usage is going to be key, but you must prepare for those things. I'll give you one example of a case study that I know of. So, and why maybe integrations are so important. Funeral home that I know of really had 3 separate systems when it came to the way they submitted pre-need, maybe their case management, and maybe the way they were doing marketing and really CRM. Now, having those 3 separate systems with no cross communication often led to missed leads coming in from marketing. It led to hours lost due to double entry, going from the pre-need system where they wrote their contracts over to case management. And then even the information that they were putting into their CRM, there was a lot of double entry that created these problems. And ultimately, they felt like they were at capacity because of the systems. They felt like they didn't have time to really even expand or do more because they were having to do so much in these separate disconnected systems. They went in, they decided that they were going to, really think about where they were going and how they were going to do it. And they started asking what I believe the right questions were. Is this working today? What's important to us? How do we find the systems that will truly work together and connect? And they found that they were able to really integrate a fully connected CRM, a pre-need contracting system, as well as accounting software and case management that talked to one another, that shared that information so that when someone came into one system, other pieces were updated, other things were filled in. It cut down on that double entry. It really almost eliminated a lot of the mistakes that were happening from one system to another. And they saw their productivity increase dramatically. They also were able to cut their licensing costs because now all of a sudden they were really able to, again, because of the integrations, because of the relationships of those systems that they were using, they were able to get some cost savings applied to that. And then the families responded in some of their reviews around that just ease and a lot of satisfaction with the way that smoother arrangements were happening, or the way that they were followed up with from raising their hand, or the way that they were the information that they were confirming versus having to give 2 or 3 times. It really made a huge difference and allowed them to not only just work smarter and more efficiently, but also grow their business and expand their business. So that's just one example of many that are out there. Really, when you think about this entire piece, I would think that the core message here is integration breaks those silos. It eliminates a lot of those inconsistencies and maybe time delays. It boosts efficiency and ultimately improves service. I would again encourage you to take that checklist, begin with auditing your tech stack and your system, and begin to think about how you can incorporate a high impact integration.
Excellent.
Well,
I'm sorry, I've got the questions piling up here. I don't want to get too far.
Yeah, no
The
problem.
first one is, what is an average time frame that new tech solutions should show their return on investment or impact on my business? I want to make sure I'm not throwing in the towel on new tech too soon.
Great question. And I think that can vary. There are different systems, and depending on what they are truly set up to do and what the intent behind the usage is, that can see immediate ROI, and or it could take some time as you're maybe fully integrating or versioning. So oftentimes it's better to start with something knowing that it's maybe a minimum viable product to begin with, that you're going to continue to make enhancements to and continue to optimize. That may take a lot longer. So I think it's hard to say. Some will be very quick. Some will take much longer. I again think that goes back to what's the intention behind using that product and what is the problem that it's trying to solve. If you start with those two questions, you may find that you're able to kind of work into, great, this is going to be an immediate impact. This is going to take some time to see that full maybe ROI or change. And there's some, I think it's important to recognize there are some costs that come with implementing systems. So there's an investment in the short term or the interim of a project like this, but understanding kind of what your usage and what problem it's solving may help you understand what that timeline is for that ROI.
Excellent. And the other one is, I came in late. How do I convince my staff, some of whom are tech savvy but change resistant, that the integration isn't a threat to their jobs? What's the most dramatic way to demonstrate how it can make their lives easier?
Well, I think it's oftentimes being very open and transparent with the staff around the why behind what you're trying to do or what you're trying to implement. Also showing how it's kind of that old mentality of what's in it for me. So putting that hat on and being in their shoes to understand. I'll tell you one of the biggest. I'll give you an example maybe of one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing with that very example is AI. There's a lot of applications for AI. AI is changing rapidly, and the ways that you can use it are being integrated daily with a lot of different systems or in a lot of different processes. Oftentimes there's certain staff members who may feel like putting in AI may somehow cause for an elimination of their position or anything else. And one thing that we've always tried to strive to talk about or to share with them is how AI can improve and help their work that they're doing and help them be more efficient, more effective, give them time back to spend on the bigger picture things or the important pieces. It's not necessarily, it's not to replace somebody, but just to help their lives improve, whether that's, again, giving them more time to do important things versus the things that need to be done, or giving them just that time savings to be able to put into other processes. That's one that we're hearing a lot within different industries or locations as they're looking to AI. But I think it goes back to helping the staff understand why you're doing what you're doing and how it truly will help them in their day-to-day, and that safety and security, that it's meant to improve their performance, their work-life balance, and not necessarily be a threat to their job.
Excellent. And that's all I have. So please continue. Thank you.
That was great. And really, I would say that as we kind of come to a close, thinking about those systems you're using, really doing that audit, understanding where you have opportunities, and knowing that there may be stuff that you were initially really excited about that in practice didn't necessarily work out like it you thought it might, and that's okay. But understanding and not trying to force that to work, but finding maybe that next thing that will help your business, help you and your staff, that can be a great opportunity. I would close with this one stat that well executed integration projects in service-based industries can yield tremendous ROI and going through the future of that business, really making sure that focus stays on the customers you're serving, your employees in the business, and how these technology systems that are meant to make our lives easier truly can make the work more meaningful and easier to do. I would encourage you again to kind of go through, evaluate your own processes, evaluate your own technology, see how you may be able to improve or even create more connections with the current systems you have, and again, lean into these integrated systems. I don't think you would be disappointed for taking the time to truly understand how this can work best for you. Again, it's been a pleasure.
I'm sorry,
really
before I let you go, I've got a couple more questions that have.
Yeah, sure.
So sorry. Okay, so are there some tech platforms that you can share that help my employees in improving their family experiences? Can you recommend some providers?
Sure. There's a lot out there. I can give you one example of one that we use on a regular basis, or is really part of the homesteaders ecosystem, and that's Olivia. Olivia is a text-based aftercare program that allows you to incorporate that within your systems, your processes, to follow up with families, to create that connection that automates some of that with real life responders in the back end, but allows you to kind of create those meaningful connections after the service and beyond. That's one example of something like that. There are a lot out there in the marketplace today. There seems like there's new organizations, new companies popping up all the time. I know NFDA is right around the corner, so I'm always excited to kind of see what new things show up. And technology has been one of those that continuously there's new faces out there, new names, new brands out there all the time. So I'd encourage you to kind of take a look at maybe even some of those vendor lists or things that are out there. Great use for ChatGPT as well. Type in, see what you find, see what kind of gives an example of some of those programs. There are a lot of great systems, a lot of great companies that are really truly trying to make an impact on our business. And I would just encourage you to find what may work best for you.
Excellent. And the next question I have here is, does everything have to be on the cloud?
Oh, great question. I would say no, definitely does not have to be all on the cloud. However, I would caveat and say that the cloud gives you a lot of opportunity. When you truly do go to a cloud-based system or systems that are connected, it opens up the opportunity for how you can get to that data easier, or how you can potentially use it. So typically on-prem or workspace based systems, you have to be on that workspace. You have to be in that office or somewhere to access that. In some cases, that's important. But cloud-based gives you the opportunity to where there's a lot of companies that have, mobile apps. They have the ability where you can log in from really anywhere. So as a former funeral director and someone working in the field, our days are chaotic at best sometimes, and you're always on the go. Having that cloud-based system may be a benefit to your team or your staff, your business, just so you have that connectivity no matter where you're at, even if you're out on the go.
Excellent. And now the question here is, when it comes to AI, who should be guiding how those tools are used?
That's another really great question, and something that we hear a lot about and talk a lot about. I would encourage you to think about a couple of different systems when you're thinking about incorporating AI. Ask a couple questions around: is this a public AI learning model, or a it's out in the public, so that any information you put into it, AI is constantly learning. So there's a lot of free systems or open systems, open source systems, that it's collecting data from not only all the things out in the world in the digital space today, but every time someone puts something into it, a document to analyze, questions and answers. It's constantly learning, and it's feeding. If it's an open system or one that's exposed to the public, it's feeding that out into the world. If you're dealing with sensitive material or systems, or you want to keep things more internal, ask the questions of, is there a closed system option? So when it comes to setting those boundaries, I think it's important as a business that you have some AI governance or AI rules around what can be used, how it can be used. I will also say that AI is great to spark ideas, to maybe do something quicker, but it should always come with some sort of, at least today, I believe it should come with some sort of human intervention, human check, because there are many things that it can put out there that are incorrect, false. It comes up with some shadow answers that basically mean that it's grabbing an answer from something that may not be the correct thing. We were playing around with some different models or some of the different AI sources, and even asked the question around members of the staff for homesteaders, and it came back with a list of people in their roles, and we noticed that a few of them were definitely way off. And so we said, well, are you sure that this person is this role? And it said, yes, absolutely. I said, well, how can it be? I'm this person, I know it's not this role. And they said, oh, sorry. So it knows that it's oftentimes incorrect, or it can be incorrect. So I would just caution you, AI is a great tool, can be a really big piece, but you really should think about that AI governance and how you're going to allow your team to use it. And again, the type of system that you're going to use.
Excellent. And here it says, if you're not super tech savvy, how can you help determine what works best for you and your firm, especially when you're introduced to so many new offerings at NFDA?
Yeah, that great question again. And I think there's a lot of consultants out there that can help with some of those things. Really, I think even if you're not tech savvy, understanding or being able to articulate the clear purpose for what you're trying to accomplish. If it's that you want to make sure that you're having the all the tools available for a case management or something else, really outline what you're trying to solve for. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to know all the technical specs or things. It can be very high level, But then going out and maybe finding a consultant or someone that can work alongside you, that's a neutral party that can help you evaluate or even come back with recommendations for those systems and the correct system that you want to use could be very helpful. And I would say that even finding someone in your everyday life that you trust and you that may be very tech savvy or has some technical background, asking them just opinions on stuff or getting a second set of eyes or opinion on some different pieces could be a big help as well.
And right now there are no more questions. We'll give everybody another second if they have anything they've been mulling around. Meanwhile, as I said at the start, you can take down Cole's information here and he'd be happy to follow up with you if you have any questions that you don't want to ask in the anonymous chat room, or you can wait for tomorrow and you'll get the email and that will give you access to this event again. And that is all I have. It looks like we're done with questions. So thank you so very much for your time, Cole. And we will see all of you next time. We have more events coming up. Just check them all out at Kates-Boylston.com, events.kates-boylston.com. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.